Hi, and welcome to class 9 of my advanced C1 level English course. So today the subject of this class is the narrative tenses. But before we begin, I want to just mention that if you're new to this channel, you're probably wondering where the other 8 classes are, because this is class 9 and it's the first video actually on this channel. The reason is that I have another channel which is called Inglés con Richard. That channel has nearly 300,000 subscribers. But that channel is mainly directed towards Spanish speakers who are learning English. And this channel, English with Richard, is what I hope to have here are all my classes which are 100% in English and are for advanced level learners of English. So, if you want to see the first 8 classes, which are all in English, advanced level, the link below in the description of this video will take you to the playlist, direct to the playlist on my other channel for the other 8 classes. Okay, let's begin the class. So, welcome to class 9 of my advanced level English course. And today we're going to be looking at narrative tenses. There are 4 narrative tenses, and to begin the class we're going to start with an example. It's always a good idea to start with an example. So the example is I'm going to read you a narrative or an anecdote, and we're going to see examples of the narrative tenses in that anecdote. This happened when I was about 6 years old. My brother, who usually slept in the same room as me, had gone away on a school trip, so I was sleeping alone in the bedroom. Before I went to sleep one night, I had been reading a very frightening story about a vampire. Then, in the middle of the night, I woke up and saw a bat was flying around outside my bedroom window. I screamed for my mummy as loud as I could. So before we continue, I've got a note down there at the bottom that basically here it says mummy is what most children call their mother. When we become adults, we usually say mum, or in American English, mum. Mum is British English, British spelling. So in this story or this narrative, we've got 4 tenses. I have the 4 tenses in different colours. Let's have a look at each of these tenses individually. So these are the narrative tenses, and the first one is the past simple. We use the past simple for the main events in the narrative. These events are in chronological order. So starting here with this one here, I went to sleep, I woke up and saw a bat, I screamed. These are the main events in the story. The first one's here. This happened when I was about 6 years old. This just sets the time that we're talking about. The main story begins here. I went to sleep, I woke up, I saw a bat, I screamed for my mummy. These are the main events in the story. In a minute we'll look at these in more detail. The next tense we have is the past continuous. The past continuous, use the past continuous to set the scene and to describe actions in progress in the past. So the examples we have of the past continuous are I was sleeping alone in the bedroom. This is setting the scene. And a bat was flying around outside my window. This is an action in progress at a particular time in the past. In a minute we're going to look at this in more detail. Finally, we have 2 more tenses that are very similar. We have the past perfect and the past perfect continuous. Use these to talk about an earlier past. That is, things which happened before the main events or the past of the past. So the past perfect, the past perfect continuous. Here we have the past perfect, had gone away. And somewhere we have here the past perfect continuous, had been reading. These are like the past of the past. Okay, let's look at more detail at each of these tenses one by one. So the first tense that we have here, we're going to look at in more detail, is the past simple. So the purpose of this class is not really to go into a great deal of detail about how you form these tenses, because you should already know how to form the past simple. Is something which is taught at beginner level. But very briefly, the past simple, the statement or the positive form, we're just basically using the subject, I, you, he, she, it, we or they, and the past form of the verb. So we have two types of verb. We have regular verbs like happened and screamed, which end in ed, and we have irregular verbs like saw is a past of see. You have to learn the irregular verbs. So examples here would be she screamed, they saw, it happened. Now remember, when we form the negative, we need to use the auxiliary did plus the word not. So it's did not, it's subject, did not plus the base form of the verb. We are not using the past form of the verb in the negative. It's did not happen, not did not happened. The correct is did not happen. One more thing, of course, native speakers nearly always say didn't. Nobody, in normal speech, people don't say he did not see. They say he didn't see, he didn't see. And finally, the question form is, first of all, we have the question word. If there is a question word, sometimes it's a yes or no question, and we don't have a question word, followed by, once again, the auxiliary verb did, followed by the subject, followed once again, like in the negative, by the base form of the verb. So, what did you see? Good, so that's a summary, very quick summary of the past simple. Let's have a look at how we use the past simple in narratives. So use the past simple to talk about the main actions in a story. So basically, I went to sleep one night, I woke up and I saw a bat. I screamed for my mummy. If you look at this narrative or this story that we have here, we see that the past simple is showing the main events in, and very important, in chronological order. I went to sleep, I woke up, I saw a bat, I screamed for my mummy. These are the main events of the story, and they happen one after the other. I went to sleep, I woke up, I saw a bat, I screamed for my mummy. 4 events that happened in chronological order. This is the main use of the past simple. We also have the past simple up here in this sentence. This happened when I was about 6 years old. But this sentence here is not part of the main story. This is setting the time period that we're talking about. This is establishing that this story is in the past. It happened when I was about 6 years old. Okay, so let's continue with the past continuous. So to form the past continuous, we need first of all the subject. If the subject is you, we or they, it's followed with the were, which is the past of the verb be, plus the present participle of the main verb. The present participle in English is the form of the verb that ends in ing. So, and an example would be, you were sleeping. The negative is you weren't sleeping. And when the subject is I, he, she, or it, we need to use was or wasn't for the negative. And we could say it was flying or it wasn't flying. And to form the question, all we need to do is reverse the order of the verb be and the subject. So the verb be comes first and the subject comes second. Were you sleeping? Was he flying? Or when were you sleeping, if you're going to use a question word. Okay, good. So let's look at how we use the past continuous in narratives. So basically, we use the past continuous to set the scene. So, for example, I was sleeping alone in the bedroom. This is the scene. This is what happened. Where is that in the text here? My brother, who usually slept in the same room as me, had gone away on a school trip, so I was sleeping alone in the bedroom. Usually I slept in the room with my brother, but my brother had gone away, so I was sleeping alone. This is setting the scene. It's a background event that was happening throughout this entire narrative. The second use of the past continuous is to describe actions in progress in the past. A bat was flying around outside my bedroom. So here we see I woke up and saw, two verbs in the past simple, a bat was flying around outside my bedroom. So this is a long activity. The bat started flying around outside my bedroom before I woke up and before I saw it, and probably continued flying around outside my bedroom window after I saw it and after I woke up. So notice in this sentence, I woke up and saw a bat was flying around outside my bedroom window. We have two short events in sequence. I woke up and I saw, and a long activity. A bat was flying around outside my bedroom window. A long activity interrupted by two short activities. It's quite common to use the past simple and the past continuous in this way. Okay, let's carry on with our last two tenses. First of all, we have the past perfect. So the past perfect is formed by using the subject, the auxiliary had, which is the past of have, plus the past participle of the main verb. In this sentence, go, or in our story, go was the main verb and gone is the past participle. Gone away means that a person went to another place. So it's a phrasal verb, it's a verb that has two parts. Example, he had gone away, and the negative is had not, but natives we always say hadn't. He hadn't gone away. And we have the question, again, as always in English, we need to reverse the order, and we say, had he gone away? So the past perfect continuous, similar, but here we have, first of all, the subject. Again, we have had or hadn't in the negative. Then we have the past participle of the verb be, which is been. And finally, we have the present participle. So he had been reading, or negative, they hadn't been reading. And the question, again, we need to reverse the order. Had he been reading? Okay, let's have a look and see how we use these two tenses in narratives. So here I have the note. Use the past perfect and the past perfect continuous to refer to an earlier past. That is, things which happened before the main events. My brother, who usually slept in the same room as me, had gone away on a school trip. So this event here had gone away. If we look back at this narrative, first of all, we set the time period, which is in the past. This happened to me when I was about 6 years old. So I'm talking about a specific event that happened at a specific point in the past when I was 6 years old. The event is the night that I read the frightening story and woke up and saw the bat flying around outside my window. It's a specific event. My brother, who usually slept in the same room as me, had gone away on a school trip. So my brother had gone away before the main events. The main events are: I went to sleep one night, I woke up, I screamed. My brother had gone away before these events happened, maybe 2 or 3 days before. So sometimes when we're telling a narrative, we want to go backwards in time. If we just want to go forwards in time, we can just use the past simple. I went to sleep, I woke up, I saw a bat, I screamed, going forward. But sometimes I want to refer to something, or we want to refer to something that happened before. And this is where we need to use the past perfect, had gone away, or the past perfect continuous. I had been reading. I went to sleep one night. I had been reading a very frightening story about a vampire. Well, the important thing here is that up here it says before. Before I went to sleep one night, I had been reading a very frightening story about a vampire. So the story here, the point in time of the story or the narrative is when I went to sleep, and I had been reading the story before I went to sleep. So I'm going backwards in time, I'm not going forward. I guess I could say the same thing by going forward in time. So I could say, I read a frightening story and then I went to sleep. But sometimes we don't want to tell things in chronological order, especially if it's like this. It's an English class and I want to use examples. So the past perfect and the past perfect continuous are used to talk about the past of the past. We are referring to a specific time in the past and we want to go backwards in our narrative. So what's the difference between the past perfect and the past perfect continuous? Well, they are very similar, but there is a difference, and this applies actually to all the perfect tenses, and that is the past perfect focuses on the result, and the past perfect continuous focuses on the activity. So going back to our examples here, my brother had gone away. The result is that my brother wasn't there. That is the focus. My brother wasn't there because he had gone away previously. And I had been reading. This focuses on the activity. Before I went to sleep, in a period of time, an activity took place over a period of time, maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes, in which I had been reading and then I went to sleep. So these two tenses a lot of the time are interchangeable, past perfect and past perfect continuous. So, okay, before we finish, I'm going to give you another story, one more story, showing you some more examples. Also, in this story, I'm going to use the contractions. The contraction of had in the past perfect and the past perfect continuous. Normally when native speakers speak, they use this contraction. So instead of saying he had sold, a native speaker would say he'd sold. Instead of saying the beans had grown, a native speaker would say the beans had grown. And instead of saying that had belonged, a native speaker would say that had belonged. So let me read you this story. It's a famous story. It's what we call a nursery story in English. It's a famous story for children. So I'm going to read you this so you can see some more examples of how these tenses are used. You probably know the story already in your own language. Jack and his mother were very poor and hungry. They had a cow that gave the family milk, but it wasn't enough. So Jack's mother sent Jack to the market to sell the cow so they could buy food. When Jack returned from the market, his mother discovered that he'd sold the cow for some magic beans. His mother was very angry, and while she was shouting at Jack, she threw the beans out of the window. When Jack woke up the next day, the sun was shining, and he noticed that the beans had grown into a stalk that was so tall it reached the sky. So while his mother was sleeping, he climbed to the top of the beanstalk,
At the top he found a sleeping giant who had been asleep for a long time. And Jack didn't want to wake him up. While the giant was sleeping, Jack saw a golden egg that had belonged to his family. Jack was very angry, so he decided to take the egg back home. While Jack was leaving with the golden egg, the giant woke up. The giant chased Jack, but when Jack reached the bottom of the beanstalk, he cut it down and the giant disappeared forever. So another narrative or another story showing the use of these tenses: past simple for the main events, past continuous for events, for activities over a longer period of time and to set the scene, background events, and past perfect and past perfect continuous for the past of the past. Okay, I hope this class has helped you a lot with your English. Remember, this is class 9. So if you want to see the other class 9 of my advanced level English course, if you want to see the other 8 classes, they're on my other channel, Inglés con Richard. I'm going to put a link to the playlist below here so that you can see the other 8 classes in this advanced English course. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.